The clock on the wall ticked softly, each second stretching longer than the last. Emily sat on the couch, her hands pressed tightly against her knees, as though holding herself still could quiet the storm inside her. Daniel knelt in front of her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. His expression was raw, stripped of the easy confidence she had always known. His eyes, those steady, familiar eyes, now carried something heavier, something vulnerable. "Emily," he whispered, his voice breaking into the silence. "I meant every word. You're not just my friend. You're the person I can't imagine my life without." Her throat ached, her chest tight with 100 unsaid things. She wanted to answer, but the words clung stubbornly to the back of her tongue. Instead, she looked down, her gaze landing on the half-packed boxes scattered around them. Each one felt like a countdown, a reminder that time was slipping through her fingers. Finally, she found her voice, though it was shaky and uncertain. "You can't just drop this on me, Daniel. Not now. You're leaving in 2 days. Do you know what you're asking me to do with this?" Daniel's brow furrowed, his voice urgent but gentle. "I'm not asking you to do anything except be honest with me. Just once. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Don't hide behind what's safe. Just tell me, do you feel it too?" The question hit her like a wave, crashing over. Years of carefully built walls. Did she feel it? God, yes. Every late-night conversation, every smile that lingered too long, every time her heart had quickened when he brushed her hand. It was all there. But fear was there too. Fear of change, of loss, of the unknown. She pressed her palms against her face, trying to steady her breathing. Memories flickered through her mind like scenes from a film. She saw them as freshmen, sitting in the campus library until dawn, sharing secrets over cold coffee. She saw him bringing her soup when she had the flu, refusing to leave until she smiled again. She saw the way he looked at her during her graduation, pride shining brighter than his own. And then, more recent moments, how his absence during short trips had left her restless, how every time he smiled at someone else, something sharp tugged inside her chest. "Daniel," her voice cracked as she lowered her hands. "I felt it. For a long time. But I told myself it was just friendship. I convinced myself you didn't see me that way. And now you're moving across the country, and suddenly everything I buried is back, and I don't know what to do with it." Daniel reached for her hands, gently prying them from her lap until his fingers wrapped around hers. His touch was steady, grounding, yet it made her pulse race wildly. "You don't have to know everything right now," he said, his voice low but certain. "But you need to know this. I don't want to start this new life without you in it. I don't want to find someone else or pretend that anyone else could matter the way you do." Emily's breath trembled. "Daniel, you're asking me to change everything. My job, my home, my entire life. I can't just walk away from it all on a whim." He shook his head. "I'm not asking you to leave it all behind. I'm asking you to imagine what it could look like if we weren't afraid. I'm asking you to trust that what we have is worth more than comfort or routine." The silence stretched again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was thick with possibility, with the weight of decisions that could change the course of both their lives. Emily pulled her hands free, rising from the couch to pace the room. Her steps carried her past the boxes, past the framed photo they had laughed over earlier, past the chipped blue mug resting on the counter. Each item felt like a breadcrumb trail through their shared history, tugging her heart in one direction, even as her mind screamed in another. "I can't just leave with you," she said finally, turning to face him. "That's not who I am. I've built something here, Daniel. My job, my friends, my family, they're here. And what if us doesn't work the way we think it will? What if it all falls apart, and I've given everything up for nothing? Daniel's expression softened, though pain lingered in his eyes. He stood slowly, closing the distance between them. Emily, I can't promise you it will be perfect. I can't promise we won't fight or struggle or mess things up sometimes. But I can promise you this: I've never wanted something more than I want this, more than I want you. Her heart ached at the conviction in his voice. She searched his face, desperate for a crack, a sign that this was temporary panic, a last-minute confession fueled by the fear of goodbye. But what she found instead was unwavering truth, and that truth terrified her more than anything. The afternoon sunlight slanted through the blinds, casting golden stripes across Daniel's living room. Dust floated lazily in the air, disturbed only when Emily carried another box to the growing stack by the door. The room, usually warm and familiar, now looked like a place in transition, a space caught between being a home and an empty shell. Emily bent down, tugging at a roll of packing tape. Its sharp ripping sound echoed too loudly in the silence. She pressed it against the box, smoothing the edge with her palm, trying to focus on the simple motion, instead of the ache swelling in her chest. She had told herself she would be strong today. She had promised herself she wouldn't let him see how much it hurt. After all, this was supposed to be a good thing. Daniel was moving across the country for a job offer most people would envy. A promotion, better pay, new opportunities. It was everything he had dreamed of since their college days. She had celebrated with him when he first told her. She had even teased him, saying he'd be sending her postcards from fancy coffee shops in Seattle while she was still stuck in their small corner of Ohio. But now, as she carefully wrapped his coffee mugs in old newspapers, reality pressed in. This wasn't just another milestone in his life. This was him leaving their late-night talks over takeout containers, their unplanned movie marathons, the little routines they had fallen into without ever naming them. Her fingers brushed over one of the mugs, a plain blue ceramic one with a tiny chip near the handle. She remembered the night he had bought it, years ago, when they were both broke students. Daniel had insisted they needed real mugs, instead of drinking coffee out of old plastic cups. She had teased him about being dramatic, that he bought two anyway, one for him, one for her, and somehow hers had ended up in her own kitchen, while his stayed here. A pair that had always belonged together. Daniel's voice broke her thoughts. She looked up, startled. He stood in the doorway, holding something in his hands, a picture frame. His dark hair was messy, falling into his eyes, and he had that half-smile that always made her chest tighten. "Do you think I should pack this one?" he asked, lifting the frame slightly. Emily rose to her feet and crossed the room. Her breath caught when she saw the photo. It was of the two of them, taken 4 summers ago at the lake. They were sitting on the dock, their legs dangling over the water, grinning like children. Daniel's arm was slung casually over her shoulders, and she was leaning into him, her eyes bright with laughter. She remembered that day vividly, the sunburn they both got, the way he had pushed her into the water when she wasn't expecting it, and how they ended the night roasting marshmallows under the stars. Her lips curved into a small smile. "Of course you should pack it. It's one of your favorites." He looked at her for a moment longer than necessary, then nodded. "Yeah, one of my favorites." Emily gently took the frame from him, her fingers brushing his for just a second. Longer than they needed to. She turned away quickly, placing the photo carefully into a box padded with soft towels. Silence settled again, but it wasn't the comfortable kind they were used to. This silence felt heavier, like there were words floating unspoken between them, thickening the air. Emily crouched down, reaching for another pile of books. She stacked them neatly, her hands moving automatically while her thoughts swirled. She wanted to say something, anything to ease the tension. But every phrase that came to mind sounded wrong. Too light, too distant, too revealing. She tried. Instead, "You're really going to like Seattle. They say the coffee there is unbeatable." Daniel chuckled softly, though the sound didn't quite reach his eyes. "Guess I'll finally have an excuse to drink even more of it." She smiled faintly, though her throat felt tight. "As if you need an excuse." They both laughed, but it was the kind of laughter that carried a shadow, as if they both knew what they were really avoiding. Emily stacked the last book into the box, then pressed her hand against the lid. She hesitated, the thought creeping in again. When this box is closed, it's one step closer to goodbye. Her fingers lingered, and then she sealed it with one sharp pull of tape. The roll of tape slipped from Emily's hand and spun across the carpet, landing near Daniel's foot. She didn't even notice it fall. Her body was frozen, her breath caught mid-inhale. Daniel's voice had been different, softer, almost weighted when he said it. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." Emily turned slowly. Her knees pressed into the carpet as she looked up at him. He wasn't fidgeting, but there was a stillness about him that unsettled her more than any nervous movement could have. His arms were crossed loosely, his shoulders leaning against the wall, as if he needed its support. His eyes, usually so easy, so familiar, held something unreadable. "What is it?" she asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Daniel's gaze flickered toward the half-packed boxes, then back to her. His jaw tightened, and for a long moment, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. "You've been here through everything," he began, his voice low, almost hesitant. "Every late-night phone call, every time I messed something up and thought it was the end of the world. Every celebration when things finally went right. You were always there." Emily's heart hammered. She wanted to laugh it off, to say something casual like "that's what friends do," but the intensity in his tone kept her silent. Daniel pushed away from the wall and stepped closer. The space between them shrank, and with it, Emily felt her composure unraveling. "The truth is," he said slowly, like each word was pulled from somewhere deep inside, "the thought of leaving you. It's the hardest part of all of this." Emily blinked. For a moment, she thought she had misheard him. She forced her lips into a smile, the kind that never reached her eyes. "Daniel, you'll make new friends. You'll love the city. You'll be fine." His brows furrowed, frustration flashing across his face. "That's not what I mean." Her throat went dry. "Then what do you mean?" Daniel let out a long breath, dragging a hand through his hair. His movements weren't as calm as his voice anymore. He looked like a man torn between two impossible choices: say it and risk everything, or keep silent and live with the weight of it. Emily's hands trembled in her lap. "Don't say it," a part of her begged, because if he said the words she thought were coming, she wouldn't know how to handle them. But another part of her buried, restless, aching, wanted nothing more than for him to speak the truth. He finally looked at her again, his eyes raw with emotion. "Forget about Seattle for a second. Forget about the job. Emily, do you have any idea what you mean to me?" Her chest constricted. The room suddenly felt too small, too charged, as if the very air was holding its breath. Emily shook her head faintly, her voice breaking. "Daniel, don't." But he stepped closer, until he was only a few feet away, his presence overwhelming, his words unstoppable now. "I didn't take this job because I wanted to leave you behind. I took it because I was scared. Scared that, if I stayed, I'd never have the courage to tell you how I really feel. Scared that I'd keep pretending we're just friends, when the truth is, I've wanted more for a long time. The words hung in the air like a storm about to break. Emily's breath hitched. She searched his face, desperate for some sign that he was joking, exaggerating, anything to take the weight off. But all she saw was sincerity. Burning and unshakable memories crashed into her. His smile when he picked her up from the airport after her first trip abroad. The way he had stayed with her all night when her father was in the hospital. The countless moments of laughter that had stitched their years together. She had always pushed those feelings down, always labeled them as friendship, as loyalty, as comfort. But now he was naming what she had never dared to. Her voice trembled. Why are you telling me this now? Why wait until you're about to leave? Daniel's eyes softened, pain flashing through them. Because I couldn't walk away without you knowing. I couldn't pack up my life, drive across the country, and leave you thinking you were just my best friend. You've never been just anything to me, Emily. The confession landed like a strike to her heart. She wanted to say something, to give him an answer, but the words tangled inside her. All she managed was a whisper. Daniel. And in that one broken word, he heard both the longing she had buried and the fear she couldn't shake.